Hey, yo, what's goody?
So, the title of this podcast is going to be called I Found Out That My Girlfriend Once Had a Threesome with Her Sister and It Creeps Me Out. Yeah, the title in and of itself is creeping me out already, so I could tell this one's gonna be crazy. But here it goes. This one is written by a man, and he's 28 years old, and he's talking about his girlfriend who's 25, and the girl's sister is 22 years old. So here it goes. I've been dating a girl I'll call Jess for over a year now. From the beginning, I thought she was a great girl, and we recently clicked. So generally, things have been going great between us, but as the title suggests, I got a huge curveball suddenly. Okay, let's continue listening. A couple of weeks ago, Jess and I were hanging out with her sister, who I'll call Anne, who was visiting from out of town. I've hung out with Anne before, and she also seems like a great girl who's actually very similar to her sister. While we were drinking quite a bit that night, at one point, Anne brought up a sexual encounter she recently had. While I'm not a prude, I didn't really feel comfortable talking about sex with my girlfriend's daughter, so I gently tried to tell them to take the conversation back to PG territory. What, bro? Okay. He continues to say, at that point, Anne kind of laughed and said, it's not like talking about sex is a big deal between them, given all they've been through. Fair enough, right? And he says, I thought she just meant that they were sisters, but just had a weird look on her face. So I asked her what she meant. Okay. After some prodding, they basically admitted that 3 years ago, when Jess was still in college, she brought home a guy one time when Anne was visiting her, and they basically had an unplanned drug threesome. My reaction was just, what the fuck? Yeah, what the fuck? Like, how can you even feel comfortable doing that with your sister? I mean, I don't know if they're like blood related or they just call each other sisters, but that's kind of weird. Like, I have two sisters and I would never do that with my sisters. I don't even want to see them naked. Like, that's so weird. Kind of like incest in a way, I think. But he said, my reaction was just, what the fuck? Both Jess and Anne seemed like normal, maybe even slightly conservative girls. So the idea that they would do this was just batshit to me. Yeah, it is pretty batshit. He said, I asked them if they regretted it, but basically they said that even though it was a mistake, they didn't necessarily feel bad about it. What? That's crazy. He said, the booze was hitting us pretty badly, and at that point, we called it a nice one after that. We didn't mention it again until Anne left a day later. But then I had another conversation with Jess, and I told her that her sister told me that made me very uncomfortable. Her response to get defensive and say it's not like she can change anything, so what's the point of dwelling on it? I mean, that's fair that she would say that, but at the same time, like, you really did that with your sister? Like, that means that you would do anything, like, when you're drunk. And those are the type of people that you have to watch out for. The people that when they're drunk, they would do things that they wouldn't normally do when they're not drunk, right? And they become like a totally different person. Like, don't you hate that? Like, their whole demeanor changes, their attitude changes. Like, now all of a sudden they with the shits for everything. Like, those are the people you have to watch out for. Seriously. But he says, the problem is somehow the situation really bothers me. I know it sounds like a fantasy to some people, but I find it quite the opposite. Yeah, because it's fucking weird. Why are you doing that with your sister? And then talking about it so openly, like if it's normal. Yeah. He says, I don't really know how to explain it. I suppose they did nothing wrong per se, but the idea very much weirds me out. It's even weird to think about being around Anne again, knowing that they have this kind of history. Yeah, honestly, bro, I would dump her. Like, seriously. If she's willing to sleep with her own sister, She might sleep around with your brother. Who knows? She might sleep around. I mean, that's very close to sleeping with your father. Like, come on. Let's be real. Oh my gosh. And then he finally says, I'm not really sure exactly what advice I'm looking for, but I just want an outside perspective. Should I try to have another conversation with her? Am I making a big deal out of this than I should? To be honest, I even found myself considering breaking up over this situation since part of me is afraid I'll never be able to look at her the same. Yeah, you should break up with her because that's weird. And a lot of people in the comments are saying like, oh, she's probably white, this and that. I mean, I don't know anything about white people and incest, but that's pretty fucking weird. Like, could you imagine? I mean, I don't even want to imagine that. Like, that's just weird. And at the same time, the fact that he's asking for advice for this is like, come on, use your common sense. If you feel weird about something, like, just speak out. Speak out about it. If somebody tries to brush you off or something like that, then they're not worth your time. Period. Like, you should not be dealing with that. But that's just weird. Like, I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard about anything like that, like somebody sleeping with their sister. I mean, I've heard about people kind of like sleeping with their sister, but it's not like their real sister. It's just someone who they call their sister, but they still have an intimate like relationship with them in a way, but it's kind of still weird. Like, it's just weird. But yeah, so that, it wasn't that much of a crazy story, but I just wanted to hear everyone's perspective on it. Like, why was that woman thinking it was okay to tell her boyfriend that? Like, that's something that you should keep to yourself. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm Dominican, and this is so weird. I'm Dominican, and I've had my cousins hit on me. Like, my cousins would deadass hit on me, try to get with me and stuff, and I'm like, bro, we're cousins, like first cousins. Like, chill with that. That's nasty. Like, ew. I don't know what's up with people from DR. Maybe it's because they didn't grow up with you, or I don't know what it is. But for some reason, there's this saying in Dominican Republic. I'm gonna say it in Spanish, but there's this saying called "Los primos se primen," and you know what that translates to in English? That means cousins squeeze each other. Like, cousins squeeze each other. Like, well, I don't want any cousin to squeeze me. Please. I do not want that. That sounds disgusting. And first of all, your mother is my mom's sister. What are you doing? Yo, but that's so nasty. Yeah, I had a few cousins that did that, and I was just like, that's just border, like, that is incest. Seriously, it is. So please stop doing that. It's really nasty. And this story is just like topping off the nastiness. Like, just because you're doing it with someone else, like a threesome and with your sister, does not mean that it's okay. Like, in general. So I don't care who you are, but let's not normalize that, please. But yeah, that was it for today. Thank you for listening to my podcast. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.